Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining today's webinar. My name is Augustus Emelu, the manager here at Unicom Seminars. We're pleased to be hosting today's webinar titled The Focus of Enterprise Architecture, Back to Basics. The webinar is presented by Jorma Myyrylainen, Senior Enterprise Architect, Tieto Group Limited, part of Tieto Group. Myyrylainen works as Senior Enterprise Architect at Tieto Group. He has over 35 years of experience in different roles in ICT and architectures. Customers have mainly been public sector organizations. Last 8 years, he's consulted the Finnish Tax Authority as ICT and EA architect. Myyryläinen was one of the team members when FTA produced the organization-wide enterprise architecture during 2010 and 2011. After that, he has consulted FTA in several EA fields. Myyryläinen has excellent knowledge on several architecture methods and frameworks, e.g. Zachman, TOGAF, and Finnish public sector standards, JUC ICT. He also contributes to develop JUC ICT standards further. He's both TOGAF and Zachman certified. At this point, I'd like to hand over to Jorma, and there will be opportunities for your questions and answers at the end of his presentation. We hope you enjoy the webinar and welcome your feedback afterwards. Over to you, Jorma.
Yes, thank you. And welcome on my behalf also. My title is The Focus of Enterprise Architecture, Back to Basics. And my intention is to speak about how enterprise architecture has evolved as a discipline, where we are now, have we succeeded, and what should we do in the future to survive as a discipline. I mean that what is the enterprise architecture's purpose, what is our right to exist, what should be the essential core of enterprise architecture and enterprise architecture. Then I will speak about, does anyone really benefit of our work? What effects our work has had during the decades we have been doing enterprise architecture. What are our real customers? Who should really be our customers? And then what we should do as architects to survive and prosper and keep our discipline as a useful method for enterprise development. And I mean here concrete means that we should do to reach our core customers and to give them value, real value for their use. And then a little bit our own stuff, so that how we should how we should get this, our work, visible to those who could be able to use it. And then if we start our journey, we should speak what enterprise architecture has been, what it is, and what it could be in the future. And if we look backwards, we can see that we have done enterprise architecture for ages. We could speculate a lot when enterprise architecture started, when we have started to do the things that now are called enterprise architecture. Okay, I think that we don't have to go deeper in history than 80s and Mr. Trachman and his when he came out with his framework, and we would use that as the beginning point of enterprise architecture. And if we look forward from that, we could ask what we have achieved during this time. And if there is a danger that there will be a new wave of methodologies that sweep us into dustbins of history if we are not able to deliver value from our work. And if that happens, we are only a peculiar fashion between other peculiar fashions and trends. I got a Gartner hype curve from the year 2010 about different enterprise architecture phenomena. First of all, I don't like this curve because this curve shape because it has only the beginning of life cycle. There is a hype, and that's fine thing. I like that this first enthusiasm is recognized, and then the small hangover, and then the useful period. But this curve lacks the downslope of that life cycle. There should be the on the right side. There should be also the downslope of everything. There is the way down also. And if you look this curve from 2010, then we can see that traditional enterprise architecture approach was seen that it was on its productivity phase. And there are a lot of new enterprise architecture phenomena coming up on the enlightenment slope, and even behind those. But there will be other methodologies of developing enterprise architecture, developing enterprises performance and functionalities. So we should be a little bit on our toes, as we say in Finland, and think where we are. We have tried to help organizations to change their business and their behavior to increase enterprises' productivity. We have done that a lot. We have tried to bring structural sense into chaotic organizations in their processes, information systems, technology, and tried to develop them towards better organization and better processes and so on. We have tried to convince IT about the usefulness of a kind of a systematic and comprehensive approach to avoid siloed development and siloed applications and so on. We have been serving up all kinds of goodies and delicacies, but still I claim that many organizations is chaotic, but maybe it's that chaos is something new and innovative. There are new things. They have brought new innovative emphasis there, but still many of them are still chaotic. Organizations have still been buying those silver bullet solutions that they think that would solve their problems. Still they use ad hoc approaches, both when developing business and developing ICT, developing technologies and so on. It's still done ad hoc. And we have been trying to change that, but we haven't succeeded everywhere. I agree that there are a lot of heroes, enterprise architecture heroes, who have done marvelous jobs, but they are exceptions. And the mainstream is still, I claim that mainstream is still haven't achieved results enough in delivering value. And if we don't do something as enterprise architects, there will be those Daleks that come and exterminate us. If we don't transform us and reshape the enterprise architecture as a discipline, we have to get rid of all those things that don't work. We have to get new talents. We have the skills and so on. We have to reshape us so that we will be kind of new doctor, if that could be used as an illustration of what we should do. And we can start it as push it in enterprise architecture, where it really fits. There's been a lot of questioning about ICT-oriented enterprise architecture. Should an enterprise architecture be ICT-oriented or not? I think that the question is a little bit silly and should even not be asked. It should be very deep under. I'm not sure if 5 feet under is enough, enough. I think that it's clear and sound to say that enterprise architecture makes organizations change out of its strategy. So it is between strategy and the change of organization. Strategy is a kind of input to enterprise architecture, and the enterprise architecture is input for the change of processes, information, ICT, infrastructure, and everything inside the organization. And in that way, the leadership will get the organization to a working organization state, and architects are the means for the leadership to change the organization in the way they have written in their strategy. And in that sense, enterprise architecture is very simple. It has only 3 things to deliver: the B state, as is state, and the change program from as is state to the B state. It's so simple, nothing else. But there are some other things to consider also. I have used here an eagle diagram to illustrate the enterprise architecture as a process. So we could see that the enterprise architecture is in the middle, is the process, and it has some input and it has some output, and then guidance to lead the enterprise architecture process to its real correct outputs, and it has an enablers who help the enterprise architecture process to process input to its output. Inputs are strategies, visions, missions, the environment where the organization is working, and the reality and its restrictions to organization. Then the guidance is top leadership and its goals, which are their interpretation from the strategies and visions and missions. And then regulations and laws, and then a lot of reference architectures, and they could be, for example, business domain architectures if the organization is working on let's say, automotive industry. There are a lot of fine reference architectures for that business domain, or inside public sector there are a lot of reference architectures. For example, in Finland, the Ministry of Finance is guiding the authorities in Finland by creating reference architectures. Then the outputs, they are the normal architecture viewpoints and as E-state and to B-state and that change program. The enablers are different enterprise architecture management models, enterprise architecture methods, tools, talents, and ICT. I see it as an enabler among other enablers for enterprise architecture. And then resources as enterprise architecture resources and a sponsor. This is a very important thing for enterprise architecture. We should have a high-level sponsor who believes in us. And then if we think those realities, one of them is the thing that nobody but architects are eager to speak architecture as a language. They are not interested to hear about architecture diagrams, about architecture tools, and so on. They are interested in what the benefits are, what value enterprise architecture is giving. And then they are very eager to see what they have to do and what they have to pay. And of course, they are eager to see when they can use it. And those are the things that enterprise architects should speak about when offering enterprise architecture value. We could see this as a balance in a kind of iceberg model. If the iceberg is floating on sea, only 10% is visible above the water level. And we could see that enterprise architecture's benefits and the costs and so on are the visible part, the useful part, the part that our audiences are interested in. And then there is the 90% below the water level, and that's the basis. There are the architecture artifacts, architecture methods, tools, and so on. The most of our audiences are interested in the part above the water level where the money is. And only architects are interested on the side below water level. There may be some odd creatures that are interested also from the basis, but they are really odd creatures if they do that. And then we have to remember that if the above part is smelting, it is always smelting, but it's when it smelts down so that it's less than 10%, the whole iceberg will turn around and it reveals the weak bottom. And I think we should not, we should avoid that situation so that we keep the balance where we offer the real value of enterprise architecture as benefits, as investment costs, and so on. That balance is very important. And then, if you think that what are our audiences, I think that our main target audience is the top leadership of the organization. We have to convince them over the benefits, investments, and state of urgency for the change. And when we reach that, Then we have the possibility that we have also other audiences. Those practical and operative management, development teams, ICT staff, and then we can start, when we have got this trust from the leadership, we can start to give course to that development. So to guide them to change the organization's behavior. And in that, I think one of the main things is that enterprise architecture and enterprise architect should be the interpreter between different stakeholders, between different groups inside an organization, and also outside the organization. And when we are interpreters, we should speak right language to right people. We should speak business language to top leadership people. That means we should answer the question, what should be done? And that means that we have to use words like customer value, profit, costs, programs, portfolios, process maps, business entities, etc., etc. And when we speak to business specialists and other specialists, we should speak the language that answers the question how we are going to change the organization, how we are going to do the things that we promised the business leadership. And then we should speak about process flows, workflows, data groups, application services, etc., etc. And then that leaves the ICT lingo, the operative people, when we are answering to the question with what we are doing the change. Then we can use acronyms like DBML, XML, system maps, platforms, and so on. And last but not least, the architecture stuff and architecture language should be used only between architects to keep the big picture together, to keep the architecture coherent, and all the relationships between architectural artifacts in shape. In that sense, we could speak about modeling languages, Archimate, TOGAF, about frameworks and all those primitives inside the frameworks and so on. And that, in that sense, the enterprise architect is an interpreter. I must make a confession here. A couple of years ago, I was very sure that enterprise architecture could be a lingua franca, that everybody could start to speak enterprise architecture as not mother tongue, but at least the second or third language. But I'm sure that it can't be in that way. Nobody really is interested in enterprise architecture in that sense. People are only interested in our value proposition and the benefits we are offering through enterprise architecture, and that has a different language to every different audience. And then second means is I think it's there could be used word structuralism. In the sense that architecture is structures and relations between those structural elements as definition. And then architecture means understanding those structures. And to achieve that, I think that could be illustrated in kind of fourfold I have here. If you think that the amount of details increases upwards and our knowledge about the target grows to the right, our first glimpse of a target is very blurred. We don't see the structure because it's behind all those numerous details, and to understand it, we have to minimize details so that we have a simpler, even naive picture of the target. And when we have less details, we can start to understand it, and we can come up with an elegant picture of the target. And when it's elegant, our knowledge and our understanding over the target grows. And when we understand it, we can start to add details, and we can have a complete picture of the target. Our narrow minds and small heads as human beings say that we can't go straight from the blurred to complete picture, but we have always we have to do this trip through naive and elegant to achieve that complete picture. And the complete picture, when we are speaking about organizations, can be given and expressed as enterprise architecture with its layers and sectors and so on. And when we think in structural way, we can do this path from the blurred target to a understandable complete picture of what we are looking for. And then a lot of other stuff means we can use. There are always a big group of skills, and I want to emphasize some of them. First, kind of knowledge about economy, about society, how society works, and how the organizations work as economical entities. I see this as a kind of all-round education. Then the structural thinking I was mentioning on the previous slide, that is very important. Then methods and frameworks are also a very important field of skills. And then personal skills and attitude. As attitude, I think that enterprise architects should always be very curious people. They have to be eager to see how things work, how they're connected together, what there's inside of them. And that's I think that's an attitude that grows that all-round education also. And then very important field is communication skills. And if I am looking to the personality who could be a potential enterprise architect, I think that if he or she doesn't know about enterprise architecture methods and frameworks, but has the right attitude and he has the mindset so that he thinks in structural way. He has all the possibilities to grow to a successful enterprise architect. If he or she doesn't have this mindset of structural thinking, I think he and or she has a very rocky road ahead, and maybe even his neighborhood will see a lot of sweat, blood, and tears. But at least it is there's a lot of work to do if those two things lack. But, those methods and frameworks are always, they can be learned, and they are not so even time consuming to learn. They are only means and for the work. Then we have the tools. Modeling tools, repositories, presentation tools, they are all useful, but we can survive with normal office tools only when the target is very, very large and there are a lot of updates and so on. Those tools will make it more easier to work and more efficient, but I think they are not necessities, but they are useful. And then those presentation tools, I put them as a separate item there because I think the presentation of enterprise architects results is a very, very important field here, and I will come to that later on. And when we have these means on our hands, then the rest is only hard work. And then I took a picture from our customers, this FTA, it's an acronym from Finnish Tax Authority. This is the way they see the use of architecture, how they capitalize on architecture. They have frameworks, different frameworks. They have notation languages. They have Archimate. They have PPMN and so on. PPMN. They have methods. This Finnish public sector method called the ICT. And they have behind that there is TOLCAF and so on. They have tools, repositories, and they have written a lot of instructions how these are applied, and then they have the architecture skills. And via those, they produce a lot of architectural artifacts, different diagrams, lists, reports, architectural artifacts, and so on. But this stuff, it's I think it's totally useless if they are not utilized. They have to be they have to be communicated in a way that they guide the organization forward. So they must be communicated towards different audiences in their own languages, as spoken before. And if we look at it as more as a process, we started with positioning enterprise architecture between strategy and organization change. between there inside the enterprise architecture, we must see two phases. First, the enterprise architecture work as creating the enterprise architecture, its artifacts, its diagrams, its lists out of a strategy, so that strategy is input for enterprise architecture. And after that, we have these enterprise architecture artifacts. We can communicate them as materials, as presentations, as discussions face-to-face. And in both those phases, we have to use methods, tools, skills, which are tailored to every enterprise architecture task. And after that communication, we can achieve the change of organizations, processes, information, ICT, and infrastructure. And then, last but not least, the visibility. If nobody sees our deeds as architects, nobody buys us. Nobody buys our services. So enterprise architects should be visible so that the enterprise architecture is seen as a kind of profit maker to those who make decisions. And those decision makers, they are the top leadership of an organization. And when we do right results and give them right visibility, we can leave those Daleks behind us and go forward to prosperity. To see that. And then the last kind of other viewpoint to enterprise architecture. I've seen a small presentation in one magazine which combined the Vitruvian virtues and Borromean rings to architecture. Vitruvian virtues come from an ancient Roman architect, Vitruvius, who has wrote the oldest survived book of architecture, and he lived in the 1st century BC. He said that architecture should be firmitas et utilitas et venustas. And in those Latin words means that so that firmitas means durability, that the architectural solution should be firm to take time, to survive in time and its changes. The architecture should be utilitas, meaning useful, so that solutions should be useful to people and in their ever-changing lives. And thirdly, architecture should be venustas, which means beauty. So architecture must be durable, useful, and beautiful. And those three things consist of Borromean rings that are kind of exception from knot theory, where those rings are linked together so that if you take one ring loose, also the other two will be loose from each other. So those three things should be always together, linked together, so that all those three things should be connected that in the sense that architecture is useful. Thank you. This was my presentation, and now if you have any questions, I would be glad to answer them. First question is, what was the new things enterprise architecture brought when it break through? Yes, I spoke about the enterprise architecture's start in the 80s, and when enterprise architecture break through during those years, it has some new features that break it, that make it useful in the sense in front of the old used development methods. And I think the most important of them was the approach of a kind of comprehensive approach, which brought together enterprise processes and functions, and then information, and then application data systems, and then technology. To see those things together and on different abstraction levels, as they are illustrated in those enterprise architecture frameworks. I think this comprehensive approach was the new thing, so that when we look at the artifacts cited in that framework, there are always things that can be compared. They are on the same level, and they guide us to see comparative issues side by side and approach the target phenomenon as a comprehensive big picture. I think that's the main issue in enterprise architecture, that will break enterprise architecture through. And then secondly, what could be the new things to fancy more than enterprise architecture in future? I see this question as a question about what would be the new discipline that sweeps us as enterprise architecture to the dustbins of history. What would be the new fancy things that come from the height curve to change and be more fancy than us? I would say that okay, that's fortune telling, and that's always difficult. But I would like to think that the new things should have something to do with more concrete things than enterprise architecture. They could be promising more comprehensive benefits and more and faster than enterprise architecture. If we do enterprise architecture in a very comprehensive way, not applying the methodology to the market organization and its situation, there is a danger of overdoing, so that we are doing things in too theoretical way and doing too much theoretical artifacts and so on. And then there could be new methodology that promises more rapid results in a sense of profitability and real value to the business. That I see that would be the future methodology that gives more. And then how would you differentiate the business architect role from that of an enterprise architect? I think this is a kind of question about what enterprise architecture really is. I have always, when being an enterprise architect, I have had a very comprehensive picture of enterprise architecture, and I have seen business architecture as part of enterprise architecture, so that it's business architecture is part of the viewpoint of processes and so on. So I see more enterprise business architecture as part of enterprise architecture, but I know there are a lot of people that think otherwise, and then I would like to see them as colleagues of enterprise architects, and we should be on the same field and work together to understand the strategy. I think business architecture in every case is also a part of understanding the strategy and digging the changes of enterprises' behavior out of strategy and will of top leadership. So I think that they are, if I separate business architecture from enterprise architecture, they are our colleagues. And then I am new to enterprise architecture field. Can you recommend any good guide for the beginners like me? What could I say? I think those open group stuff about TOGAF would be nice start. Then Mr. Zachman is always good source for enterprise architecture thinking. Then if I should recommend some reading, I would recommend a book that I have always in my shelf beside my work table. It's called Enterprise Architecture as Strategy, Creating a Foundation for Business Execution. The writers are Jean W. Ross, Peter Weil, and David C. Robertson, published by Harvard Business Press I think this is one of the best books I have ever read about enterprise architecture. I think this, if I should start as a new enterprise architecture, the first thing to do could be to read this book. And I think it explains a lot of what enterprise architecture is all about. And I think there are no more questions. So thank you on my behalf, and may force with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Jorma. That was a very insightful presentation. That concludes the question and answer session. Jorma will also be speaking at the Enterprise Architecture Conference taking place in London 20th of November. For further details on the conference, please visit our website www.unicom.co.uk/conferences. Thank you everyone for joining today's webinar. We'll make the recording available afterwards and send you the link as well. We look forward to your future participation at one of our events. Thank you all.